alive, and I'm going to wish everyone a very good morning shortly. You would think that even if we were doing this, I'd know what to do by now, but here we are, still in the same old world. But no, actually, we did this because the stream, basically, I've worked out how to improve the stream a great deal. So yeah. Fantastic. Okay. All right, brilliant. Well, a very good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for coming back. I hope the picture's coming through to you a little bit clearer from here out in the far, far nether regions of the UK. I'm joined as ever by the wonderful Nisha and the ever effervescent and energized Action Jackson. And I've mistimed it, so I've put a picture of Nisha where I said Action, and that doesn't really help anyone with understanding what's going on, which is why I don't do much on these streams. So today we've got a great set of lessons lined up for you. We've got English, then maths, then science. We've got more in motivation with Mr. Jackson. We've got 2 different science lessons. You're going to have chemistry and you're going to have physics as well today, I think. And then you're also going to have a higher level maths lesson. So even though it looks like you've got double maths and double science, which would terrify you in school, today you're getting 2 different levels and 2 different forms. And I hope it's going to be of use to you. Thanks to everyone who's actually watching and sharing. And with that, see, energy. I was trying to match your energy today. Actually, see, I brought some myself today. All yours, buddy. Thank you so much, and good morning.
Oh, good morning, everyone. This is Action Jackson, and welcome to Streaming School. Sorry, pardon me. I've got to put on my glasses because I'm feeling cool. I feel cool every day, but this day is Friday. It's the end of the week, okay? And I'm trusting that each and every one of you are feeling good. My name's Action Jackson. I'm the resident motivational speaker, your energizer here at Streaming School. I'm so excited and so privileged to be able to do this. What's my role? Well, every single day, I'm here in your face to just bring your energy up so you can set yourself up for the day. I've been doing this for the last 20 years. I love it with a passion. So if you're ready, I want us to get straight into it. I've got my music. I just want you to just sway for me. Sway for me. Now don't be shy. No one can see you dancing. Just move. Oh, yes. Feeling good. I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine. I can't hear you. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine. Woo! Okay. Well, so that's how I start my day. And I think you should start your day the way that makes you feel happy, whether it be music or dancing. Let's get straight into our morning motivation. What's motivation? Motivation is a drive. What drives you to want to do something? And what I want to give you is some ideas to help you stay driven in all that you're doing. Now I know school's out. We don't know when school's going to be back. But guess what we can do? We can prepare for whenever it comes back. There's a quote I heard that says, it's better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Preparation is key. So what you're doing is you're preparing for the unseen. So when things do come back, at least you're equipped, you're ready to go. All right? So I'm going to share my slides right here so that you guys can follow along with me and we can make this happen. There we go. Welcome everyone. If you're watching, this is Streaming School. I'm Action Jackson, the resident motivational speaker here on Streaming School. I'm going to take you back a little bit now. This is me here doing my TED Talk, UK Ambassador for Happiness. And this is the day I graduated university. Oh. Now I wanted to share this picture with you because what are we working towards? For some of you, you're looking towards one day going to university, getting your degree, and making sure that you go into a profession. Your secret. My first day at university, I cried because I didn't think I was good enough. But here you guys on Streaming School getting equipped with what you need for the world up ahead. Yeah, we're preparing for the unseen. So here's something I want you to understand. You are amazing. So let me just energize you for a second. The phrase goes, I am amazing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I am amazing. I can see you now. Come on. I am amazing. Feeling good. Feeling fly. I am amazing. Okay, with that said, watch what I'm about to teach you right now. There are 3 types of tasks you're going to put your energy on. The first kind of task is this: your thoughts affecting your emotions affecting your actions, and your actions affecting your results. Look after your thoughts. Streaming school, we want to change the way you think about yourself, change the way you think about subjects. Very quickly, I'm going to take you deep into this. There are tasks you're going to do that are important and they're not urgent. Now, what streaming school is very important. Not urgent yet, because when your exams come, you then realize, wow, streaming school is really important for me. Task number 2, important things that are urgent. That's like, when the exam is in your face like that, that's important and urgent. It's best to tackle things when they're important and not urgent. Urgency is fire. And task number 3 are things that are not important and not urgent. Things like Netflix. They're not important, they're not urgent. TikTok. As much as I love TikTok, not important, not urgent. Does this make sense? Task number 1 is important, but it's not urgent. When you deal with things when they're not urgent, you put yourself in pole position. Many people tackle their task when it's the level 2, important and urgent. That's why they're rushing. I'm stressed. You don't need to tackle things when they're on level 2. You want to tackle things when they're level 1. That's why streaming school exists. With that said, I want you to think about what you're doing. Whenever you get bored, get frustrated, think, what's the point? Think about it. Actually, I'm doing this because I don't want it to become urgent and undone. You want it to become urgent, but when it gets to the urgent stage, you know it's done. Important, not urgent. That's when I want you to be focusing on stuff. All right, with that said, just remember that you are amazing. I am amazing. Whatever you do today, go into the day feeling good about yourself, because everything you do will bring you to that space. Have a think about what I just said today. Whatever you're doing is helping you to move one step towards becoming successful. Also, I'll challenge you, keep a journal. Keep a journal of the good things that are happening in this season. It's easy for us to think about the negatives, but I don't want you to think about the negatives. I want you to think more about the positives. I want you to document the positives. Document what you learn here on streaming school and revisit it often so that it helps you to stay in the zone. All right? You are amazing. I am amazing. We are all amazing. If you want to hear more craziness, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Action Jackson Live. You can come over there and get inspired. I'm proud of you. I'm sure you're proud of yourself. Before you go into today, I want you to set yourself up and think about what you want to get out of today and how today is going to inspire you. And with that said, I'm going to hand over back to the team. How you guys doing?
Good morning, Action. Thank you so much. I'm well. Nish, how are you? Mike, how are you?
Good. How's everyone?
Yeah, ticking over. We're using new technology today, Mike, so it should be a blast. Action, thank you so much for sharing with us, buddy. And obviously, for those that don't know as well, Action has worked with over 2,000 schools. So he's worked with hundreds of thousands of students and thousands of teachers. And yeah, it's a super opportunity to have him. So please follow him as well and listen to what he has to say. And I bid you a good day, my good friend, Mr. Jackson. And I look forward to speaking to you later on. And I bring it to my other good friend, which is a real privilege I get to do, Mr. Michael Guard. How are you, Michael?
Morning, good. I've been. I think you can track the growth of my hair from these videos at the moment. So it's obviously not the world's worst thing to worry about, but you know, it's something playing on my mind.
I've got. I didn't realize how much hair actually grows right at the back here. There's where you kind of like it's more than time for a haircut. I think soon it'll be time for the grass trimmer if this keeps up. There'll be no health and safety people around that day. Let me tell you that. But what have you got lined up for us today, Mike?
I want to look at something which helps us with our literature and our language, which is exploring the notion of characters and memorable characters.
And for those of you joining us for the first time, Mr. Michael Guard is an English teacher in schools of many years' experience. And he also has his own YouTube channel, and he's kindly donating his time to help to teach the country at the moment. We've had thousands of views, Michael. And yeah, I hope more and more, and we get to teach more and more people today.
Yeah, good. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, good morning, everybody. So I hope you're well. And obviously, it's strange to think that for some of us, this would have been the last day of our Easter holiday. But, you know, that's irrelevant nowadays, isn't it, really? So I want to focus in, as I said a moment ago, on two things, really. I'm always looking to help develop our language skills, our reading and writing ability, whilst also trying to improve our literature. And as Leon successfully said, you know, I've been working obviously as a teacher for a number of years, being on YouTube, you know, millions of views actually, which has been quite humbling. But I want to focus on you guys there and what we're doing. And Nish, is not as always, but Nish, I want to ask you a question which will appear when you share my presentation, please.
This is the part of the day you love, Nish.
I sometimes just drop this on you rather than letting you know, don't I?
That's the magic of live TV, Mike.
So, Nish, are you ready?
And Nisha has left the building, buddy. So I'm happy to, she might have popped off to get a glass of water. I'm happy to be your guinea pig, Michael.
Thank you. So as you can see, what I want to ask is this question. So I want you to name, Leon, a character you remember from a novel or a film, but I want you to consider what's the one thing in particular that you remember about them?
Right. If I choose a film, then obviously I'm letting myself down as an English teacher. I will pick Angelo from Measure for Measure, Shakespeare.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice. And why does that character in particular stick in your mind?
It sticks in my mind because he was put in a really, really difficult situation. And I always wonder what would happen in that situation. Essentially, he's put in a situation where he's a really, really nice guy, really, really humble, and then he's made to take power, and it completely changes him, and he becomes a bit of a tyrant. And I'm always just really interested in that dynamic between having responsibility, power, and then having complete control, and what would do, and how corruption falls in that line.
Nice. So that's interesting, isn't it? You're looking at there's almost an element of not necessarily sympathy, but empathy. This idea of, you know, what would I do if I was in that particular situation? Or there's some kind of, and that's interesting. And we're going to look at that in a moment, because actually what we're going to focus on, as I said to you already, is the idea of creating a character. And as I've said, yes, this leads in very obviously into our language exams, which is talking about how to do our narrative or descriptive writing. But actually, once again, as we were looking at on Wednesday, if we understand how writers create, we are then able to not only replicate that, but explain and analyze that in our own writing. If anyone hasn't had a chance to look at the lesson on Wednesday, we were looking at essay writing, in particular use of context. So our main aim really today is to understand how writers create memorable characters, because that's important. Because obviously, if your characters aren't memorable, then essentially you'll quickly be forgotten. So let's look at two examples now. One is going to be a classic example from a piece of literature which you may well be exploring in the future. And another example is going to come from a modern day film. Both are going to be using the same techniques potentially. And let's have a watch.
It's all still a hand. How now? What do you want with me? Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down?
I can.
Do it then.
You do not believe in me.
And our second video.
Oh, dude. Seriously? You gotta clean up your room. It's a complete mess.
I am Groot.
I'm not boring. You're boring. What's boring is me tripping over your spines every day. I'm not boring. Now I know how young you felt.
Okay, so there's two examples of writers, creators generating characters which are memorable for us. But how do they do it? What are the techniques? You may wish to, if you're revising this, pause this and write them down. I'm now going to show you. So this is not an exhaustive list. There's obviously some of the main ways in which we do create characters as writers, directors, or whatnot. But we have to first of all think about the name of the character. So the Dickens example is a pertinent one because obviously a lot of the names that Dickens gives his characters sound like adjectives. They've become part of our vernacular. So, for example, if I was to refer to someone as Scrooge, well, we now know that to refer to someone as a Scrooge is someone who is not only anti-Christmas, but someone who's uncharitable, ungiving, unloving. And that's also highlighting the power of words we have there. We can't also forget, for example, how they move. So, for instance, if I skip into my lesson, that's very different to trudging into the lesson, being dragged into the lesson. So you get an impression of the character just from the way they move. What's also important is the character's past or backstory. So again, backstory sounds very much like something out of a Batman comic, but it's important because if we understand where they've been, we understand why they potentially are the way they are. And that can help to create a sense of sympathy or hatred. So, for example, if we know they've lost someone, or if we know they've committed a terrible deed, that helps generate the impression that we have of that character. What's also interesting is how others interact with the character. So it could well be that the character is perceived by us as a wonderful individual, but for some reason, other characters isolate them, ignore them, or even act in a negative way towards them. Well, why is that? And again, sometimes the withholding of that information from a writer, not telling you why they're acting in a certain way, that can also lead to an interesting sense of character. Of course, we have the use of the five senses, and it doesn't matter if you're in primary school, it doesn't matter if you're a professional writer or a degree at GCSE. The use of the five senses, what they look like, how they sound, even how they smell, for example, these are all things which help to create layers of understanding for the character. We get to understand what the character is like. Another interesting thing here, and we talked a little bit about this with the use of sound when we were looking at how writers create fear, is omission. So what isn't written about? So, for example, they don't have this, they don't have that. That can also generate a sense of what the character can be like. Of course, when we're talking about writing, we make sure we use our punctuation and grammar to support that. So, for example, if we're looking at dialogue, if I'm just using a full stop in comparison to exclamation mark, well, that can highlight a very different way of delivering a piece of speech, which can generate a very different way of exploring the character. So, with some of those things in mind, let's now look at a couple of examples and explore how writers create their characters. So I'm going to go back to the example of A Christmas Carol and Scrooge in particular. Now, what's important to notice here is the narrative style. So we're not going to read all of this, but we will explore parts of it. So, oh, he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. So the narrative style we have here is third-person omniscient. So that essentially means that we have a godlike presence in this scene. So it means that they know all, they hear all, which means we can get into the thoughts and feelings of the characters as well to truly understand them. Then we have here a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scratching, covetous old sinner. So notice that we have a list of adjectives which describe the character. And these are a list of negative adjectives. Why use a list of negative adjectives? Well, excuse me. Well, it helps to create a truly negative picture of the character. And again, if this was a literature session we're exploring in particular now, we'll be able to examine some of those particular words. So clutching means obviously ungiving, uncharitable. And also notice, we talked about the use of punctuation again. We can see here we have 1, 2, 3 examples of the exclamation mark being used. So again, we've known this already a couple of times before, an exclamatory sentence. That obviously helps to highlight a strength of feeling, and the feeling here is a truly negative one. So the omniscient narrator here is deliberately trying to highlight to us, or wanting us to feel, that Scrooge is a negative character. Now, you might argue that creates a sense of prejudice, but that's entirely your opinion and up to you as well. And then we move further. So we have here, this description is further explored. Hard and sharp as flint, so use of metaphor being explored here, where he looks like how he behaves, which no steel ever struck out generous fire, secret and self-contained, and solitary as an oyster. Now this is really interesting. I particularly love this part of the quote, because obviously solitary as an oyster is a simile. Now, what that suggests in the context of this part of the text is that he's shut off from the world. His exterior is harsh and ungenerous, but actually, what do oysters create? Well, oysters can create a pearl. So, if we know A Christmas Carol, a pearl is a symbol of purity. So that suggests that even in negative characters such as Scrooge, there is a pearl, a sense of purity within all of us. And notice, to get that pearl, you have to open up. What does Scrooge do at the end of this novella? He opens up to the world. The pearl is released. There's your answer. So it's really a very clever use of a simile, because it doesn't just describe the character now, it describes the character at the end of the novella. And I think it's a really, really lovely way of exploring him. And if we look further, that negative description is being used again. So we have the use of red eyes, thin blue lips. So again, creating a sense of negativity being employed here. We also have the use of a frosty rhyme. So again, he's acting in a cold manner. The red eyes suggest a hellish, devilish nature to him. And again, it didn't for one Christian law was supposed to be charitable and loving and giving, like we should be every day anyway. Even the character Scrooge cannot commit to that. So that's a really, really interesting way of describing the character. Notice we've got no action here, because quite often we understand a character by their actions. So within the plot, we haven't got that. In this example, we're looking at a description. So if you come to do descriptive writing in your exams, this is a great way of spending a little bit of time examining a character and creating a memorable character for your readership and your audience. But now let's look at a different example here. Now this is a narrative example called The Lesson. And what's being employed? So I know this is going to be in the first person. This is the first person perspective. Now, again, why does that matter? Well, we know that the third person allows us to have a full understanding of all the surroundings, everybody's thoughts and feelings. The third person narrows the viewpoint, it narrows the perspective. So that means we only get the viewpoint of the narrator, the character speaking in this time. And in this example, it's a teacher in a lesson. That's great because it can help us to feel a sense of camaraderie with that character in particular. And it's a different way. Now, let's look at this example here, which is based in action to create a sense of what a character can be like. So rain, heavy rain, is being this way for the last few months. But I never understand why it only seems to happen once it enters the confines of this institution, this place of learning, as the all-powerful head calls it. I used to enjoy the rain falling outside, whilst the students sat in their perfect uniforms, leaning their heads the way a puppy does when it doesn't quite understand something. I used to also enjoy the banter of the pupils. I was once even considered to be funny, a legend by the students, as I patrolled the corridors, looking for anyone who even dreamed of breaking the rules. It is different now. But notice, what we're getting here in this description from the character's perspective is a sense of things used to be pleasant. They used to enjoy the interaction with the students, but notice we have a single sentence paragraph here, which is a little great tip for your language writing. It is different now. And I want to focus on the idea of the pupils being described as puppies, because we're going to reply back to that later. Now, The rain seems to tap repetitively at the glass throughout the day, not only making me feel trapped within this place. When I look closely at the individual droplets of spit, I can almost see tiny faces laughing at me. They seem to screech, "You're rubbish. No one likes you. Old and boring." That's ridiculous, I seem to tell myself more and more these days. I'm not old. So notice now that the use of prophetic fallacy, the weather reflecting the mood, the writer has zoomed in on individual droplets of spit, and it seems as if it is talking to the characters. So now my impression of the character here is there's someone who is struggling, someone who's finding life difficult, and actually you might even say is borderline about to have a mental breakdown. Then it happens again. Well, what happens again? We don't know yet. We're engaged, we're intrigued. The knell, which is a bell rung at a funeral. So notice we haven't got the happy bell chimes, we have the knell, the death bell. The teacher sees, in their perspective as a character, the bell ringing for a lesson as something they associate with a funeral, a death. Imagine that. Echoes down decrepit corridors, full of work as ancient hieroglyphics, labeled by pupils who have not only left, but actually have terrors of their own. But that could mean they only left last year. One negative impression I have of the characters here. I can hear them coming. What is them? We would obviously suggest they are students, but them, notice we looked at the use of Gothic literature and the use of the other. Them creates a sense of them being some kind of monster, some kind of thing to fear. The footsteps and the riotous noise begins to ricochet off the primeval structure, becoming louder and louder. I take a deep breath of air into my lungs, gaze over my meticulous, which means carefully planned lesson, ignore the rain mocking me, and we're going back to that image. So we now have a motif, an image which we use throughout to create an image and impression, and move towards the door for another 50 minutes of purgatory, which is the space between heaven and hell. Entering a room like a pack of wild dingoes. So notice how that simile is developed now. We've gone from puppies to dingoes. They skulk to their seats. So again, notice skulking is an idea of obviously some kind of predatory being. Without a hello, sir, or I read that book you recommended, it was great anywhere. Most lean back in their seats. I'm just doing that for you. Mostly back in their seats. Well, hello, sir, I read that book, it was great. As if this haven of learning I've created is their own private youth club. Others continue to read the brightly coloured and heavily pictured magazines they had been allowed to use like a pacifier to soothe their teenage brains. So again, let's compare the two examples we have here before. So in the first example, we were looking at a character who's been described truly negatively by the third person narration. They are using exclamatory sentences to highlight that level of distaste they have for them. But then notice Solitary as an oyster, they've highlighted there is a sense of potential salvation, which we see later in the text. Then when we looked at this narrative example here, notice it's now in the first person perspective. So we had the viewpoint of the teacher and not the students. But again, notice the way that the simile develops here from puppy to dingoes. We've also got the use of the motif. So the weather reflecting their mood in prophetic fallacy to highlight obviously the negative feelings and perceptions they have of obviously themselves and the students. Is it okay to move back to my face again, please?
Cool.
Thank you. So, as we said, our main aim today was to explore how writers create memorable characters. We've looked at two examples as to how we can do that in a variety of different ways, through different narrative perspective, but also the way in which we use our imagery, similes and metaphors, and also, obviously, we then compared the way we can use a motif or an image to help within the action. Obviously, if you now wish to do so, there is nothing stopping you completing a very similar task today. You may wish to create your own character, and you can try using the same character to create two different impressions. So, for example, if I have a green field, which is emerald green or bogey green, it's still the same field, but we now have two very different impressions of that field. Try and do that with your own characters as well. And obviously, I look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Thank you so much, Michael. Really, really appreciate it, buddy. How are you going to spend the next weekend of your lockdown weekend?
Make sure that the meticulous lesson plan is ready for the puppy-like students at Stream School.
Wonderful, buddy. Well, look, have a great time. Look after yourself. And yeah, I really hope to catch you later on in the day.
Thank you. Good luck, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
Small apologies there if at the beginning you found the sound and the picture to be slightly out of sync. We are always trying new bits of technology and monitoring stuff, and we got that through straight away, so we tried to improve on it. And that's one of the wonderful things about trying to do something for the first time. So slight apologies there. But we have 4 more lessons, and we've actually worked out what the problem with the sound is. And Nish, what have we got coming up for us now?
So right now, the English task, the optional task, it is to create your own character and write a description of them as if they were being introduced into a story. So students, please get involved, and parents as well. It'll be fun. I will put the resources to this lesson on Facebook and on YouTube, and you can catch up on everything there as well. Next, we have maths, I believe.
Brilliant. Right, really look forward to that, and I really look forward to seeing and speaking to you in a short while, my dear.
Yep, see you.
Catch you.